Well, welcome everyone. Um, let's sit for 10 minutes and some other people will be joining us as we sit. And then I will start with some remarks and we will open inquiry. I'm looking at the laptop in the Zendo, and it's a pretty small screen. I just was scanning across to see if what I could do to see who all is online. And I'm so grateful to have you join me today. I'm Joel Barna. I'm an entrusted teacher at Appamada. I've been practicing with Appamada for, I think, about 18 years. And I'm very grateful that Ed is our online monitor today, and that Nellie is also helping out with what's involved with that, and that Kim, whom you cannot see, Kim Mosley, entrusted teacher, is off camera, but he just rang the bells for our sitting. And thank you so much, Kim. Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Nellie. And thank you, everyone. So I want to, I want to acknowledge too, just the powerful talks that we have heard in just the last month at Inquiry. Suzanne Kilkus last week. Before that, Trudy Johnston and Flint. Remarkable talks that have really, they've had a big impact on what I want to talk about today. And, if you have not seen them all, they're available on SoundCloud and on YouTube for seeing. So I'm going to present some very personal reflections, as you will see, and they're going to be organized around a couple of texts. And one of them, the one I'll start with, is a contemporary text. It's a graduation speech, or a small excerpt from a long graduation speech. The other is a koan involving an encounter between a teacher and a student who later became a famous teacher in the Chan tradition about 1,300 years ago, maybe between 12 and 1,300 years ago. And both of them have been triggering in different ways for me. And I'll talk about how that came about. But I want to say, just at the beginning, that I've kind of tried out elements of this talk on some other people, some of my wonderful spiritual friends with Appamada. And that I know from the reactions that I've gotten that I need to really pay attention to how I'm framing this. And I want to say, just from the outset, this is a story that is not prescriptive, it's descriptive, I mean, I always have trouble with that. I listen to speakers, even when I watch movies, I tend to take them as telling me something that I need to emulate in my life in a prescriptive way. And although I hope that this will be helpful in some way, I do realize that if I don't say that at the beginning, that I can have an effect that might be contrary to my intention. So I hope that will become clearer as I go along. Okay, well, Ed, could you bring up the commencement speech? So I'm going to read this out loud in case it's hard for you to see, but you're welcome to read along. If you recognize it already, please don't share what you recognize in the comments yet. That will spoil what I hope will be a kind of a surprise at the end. Now, the commencement speakers will typically also wish you good luck and extend good wishes to you. I will not do that, and I'll tell you why. From time to time in the years to come, I hope you will be treated unfairly so that you will come to know the value of justice. I hope that you will suffer betrayal, because that will teach you the importance of loyalty. Sorry to say, but I hope you will be lonely from time to time so that you don't take friends for granted. I wish you bad luck, again, from time to time, so that you will be conscious of the role of chance in life and understand that your success is not completely deserved and that the failure of others is not completely deserved either. And when you lose, as you will from time to time, I hope every now and then your opponent will gloat over your failure. It is a way for you to understand the importance of sportsmanship. I hope you'll be ignored so that you know the importance of listening to others. And I hope you will have just enough pain to learn compassion. Whether I wish these things or not, they're going to happen. And whether you benefit from them or not will depend upon your ability to see the message in your misfortunes. So, if you're like me, you're a little bit surprised. This is not the usual pablum of most graduation congratulations speeches. It contains some things that I agree with, and that in that it is turning expectations on their heads. You know, it's like, I wish you bad luck so that you can learn, and enough pain so that you can have compassion. This is pretty close to things that a Buddhist might say, in fact. I will come back to this later. And now I want Ed, if you would, to bring up the other document, or the one that's connected to that, which is the case from the Blue Cliff record. So I've used this this text over the last year many times. I joined a couple years ago. I had the great good fortune to join an ongoing group that Kim and Ellen Hippert had started called Zazen and Sharing, a name which predates the name of the Zazen service and sharing and that we have for the morning now. We're going to have to change the name of one of them. This is, we've been gradually reading through this newish translation of the Blue Cliff record, which is recorded cases of encounters between teachers and students, teachers and teachers, that were compiled in the 16th century based on conversations that happened in the 9th and 10th centuries in Japan. I'm sorry, in China. Let's see, let me find my notes here. Well, you know, most everyone who has read koans know that they tend to be difficult to parse out into modern language. They definitely go against expectations, and that they are usually presented with a lot of commentary from contemporary and later writers, mostly Chinese, mostly poets, mostly philosophers in medieval China, who were engaged in ways that it's hard for us to fathom. That they, linguistic games and philosophical jousting and those sorts of things, which are hard for us to make our way through, or at least if you're like me. So this particular version is by a Canadian Zen practitioner. His name is Matthew Sullivan. His Dharma name is Juksan. He practices in a Korean Zen tradition, which is based on what in Japanese is called Rinzai Zen, following the teachings of the Zen master Linji, who was a generation or two after the folks who are in the case I'm about to read out loud. And I invite you to read along with me, if you can. Once, when Great Master Ma and Bai Zhang were out for a walk, they saw some wild ducks flying past. And let me say, Master Ma, he's also known as Mazu Dao Yi, or Baso Doitsu in Japanese. All names that include honorifics and place names and so on, indicating his importance within the Chan tradition. And Baizhang, I'm pretty sure, was his student Baizhang. There's more than one Baizhang in the Blue Cliff record. One was a hermit, and one was a famous teacher. And I'm particularly interested in Baizhang because he was the teacher who gave such a hard time to my favorite Chan teacher, who was Yunyan. He was pretty hard on everybody. It is said that the monks in his monastery were not allowed to lie down for 30 years. He's also the author, or the person who's quoted for the famous phrase, which he applied to himself. The famous phrase, "A day without work is a day without eating." He insisted upon the importance of that in the monastic life. And really, that had a big effect on making monasteries to be more self-sufficient and a kind of different mindset for the monks. So once when Master Ma and Baizhang were out for a walk, they saw some wild ducks flying past. Great Master Ma said, "What was that?" Baizhang said, "Wild ducks." Great Master Ma asked, "Where did they go?" Baizhang said, "They went flying past." Great Master Ma yanked Baizhang's nose so that he had to stifle a cry. Then Great Master Ma said, "They never fly away." So our practice at Appamada for koans is to read through koan many times. If there are many people present, we will assign roles so that one person reads as the narrator, one reads as Master Ma, one reads as Baizhang, and so on, in trying to engage with the koan by literally putting it into our own voices. And this has been very instructive to me. I know it's very different from the Rinzai focus that is used by Matthew Sullivan and by other people I know and respect who live in Albuquerque, where I am now residing, which is to engage with koans as if one's hair was on fire. That it's just, you have to enter into it with total commitment. And what we do is offer gateways to engage with the koans, but without the intensity, I think, that is used in the other styles. And I want to say that I hate this koan, or I used to hate this koan. It's one of a number in the koan literature in which acts of violence are portrayed. And maybe it's not fair to say I hate the koan. What I have hated is the commentary on the koan, usually attached to them, in which the act of violence is portrayed as a legitimate teaching method. Even merciful wisdom, you know? So what do abusers say to the people they're abusing? They say, "Look what you made me do." They say, "I did it for your own good." So that's the filter that I have brought to engaging. That's the filter that I brought to engaging with this koan when I was reading it with the members of the Zazen and sharing group a couple weeks ago, about a month ago. So I want to say that something happened in encountering this. What we do is we read through the koan many times, and then we take some time to reflect and to write down some reactions. And then we share those reactions. And I just want to tip my hat to the extraordinary women, it's almost always women, who come regularly to the Zazen and sharing sessions. Jay Cross, Claudine, Rosemary Gates, Ellen Hippert, Marla, And there are others, and my apologies. I'm sure that I've left somebody crucial out. My heart is beating fast at that thought that I've left somebody important out. But at any rate, if you participated in any time during the Zazen and sharing, you've really affected me. And what happened in writing about this koan is that I had a shift. And it was very personal. I remembered the last year or so of my mother's life. She had macular degeneration and she could not see. And she began to lose her hearing. And so it was very difficult to talk with her. I was living in Austin, she was living in Houston. I would go at least once a week to visit with my parents, to help them get to medical appointments, or just to visit with them on a weekend. Depending on my schedule. I say once a week, but there were some weeks when I couldn't do it. But it was regular. And it was very painful for me in this time, in particular because I had made a mistake with my mother that I really wanted to heal. I put together and had beautifully bound a collection of stories that she had written late in life, in her late 80s and early 90s, before she lost her eyesight. And I put it together, and I made a mistake in the introduction. I named the wrong high school. And I said that she went to a high school that my father had attended, but not the one that she attended. And she was very angry about that. It's like it ruined the whole book. And she could not get past that. And I really wanted to connect with her and be able to let her know how sorry I was that I had, and to offer a way of correcting the record, not to take apart the whole book, but to insert another page into the ones that were still there, and to contact the people that she had given the book to, and all these steps that I wanted to do. But I couldn't talk to her. She couldn't see me, and I couldn't talk to her without shouting at her. And that was simply too painful. So I felt terrible about that. So all of those memories came back to me. And so why am I thinking of that? Why is this happening? And it occurred to me, I will get emotional as I tell this story, but it just occurred to me, maybe Ma was an old man at this time. Now, if I go back and I look at the record, and try and figure out when was Baizhang with Ma, I'm probably wrong. But in the moment, what I thought was, Ma couldn't see the ducks. He couldn't really tell what they were. He couldn't hear them. And he lashed out in frustration about that. And so I reported this to thank you. Kim is bringing me some Kleenex, thank you. I reported this in the group, and Rosemarie did something extraordinary. She interpreted Ma's last statement about the ducks in a light that indicated that maybe he was feeling some pain about losing Baizhang as a student. The way she read it was, they don't fly away. So obviously, this is very moving to me. And I'm really grateful that I had this opportunity with this extraordinary group of spiritual friends to have this experience of having a change in going from a really closed, hardened heart to seeing an echo of my own life. A week or so after that, I was in a teacher's meeting with Peg and Flint and other entrusted teachers, and I told that story. And I said, Peg and Flint, you've both done at least some formal koan study, and you have developed this style of engaging with koans for appamada. Was it, here I'm drawing on my own personal story, I would say my own slightly tawdry personal story. It's just like, this is just one story from one life. Could this in any way be a legitimate response to how to deal with koans? And Peg and Flint said, yes. And what Peg said that really moved me was, if it's not about your life, you're not engaging with the koan. So that gave me heart to want to share it with you today. It seems, again, it's personal, but the ability to know that something from my own life, as particular as, just particular as it is, can open me up to an ancient story is, it just seems very important to me. And that's why I wanted to talk about it. Since then I've been thinking about it, and I think about, well, yeah, okay, so I had an opening, but what else? And what Peg said beyond, if it's not personal, if it's not connected to the story of your life, she added, right now, then you're not engaging with the koan. So I thought of that right now, So what is going on in my life right now? How is this? Is this just like a sentimental recollection of something, or is it really important for me going forward? And I thought of other ways in which I've hardened my heart, other ways in which I don't want to engage with people. I don't want to connect with people who are doing bad things in the world that I live in right now. And I'll say, I'm extremely privileged. No one is hunting for me to deport me from the United States. No one is shooting at me. No one is dropping bombs on my house. I'm very lucky. And, of course, I hope that my luck will continue. But I still wonder, like, okay, so I've hardened my heart against the people who are doing these kinds of things. I will not talk to some of my family members because I know that they will justify the actions that are being taken in our country. They've done so in the past. I expect that they will do so the next time we talk. And so I'm just avoiding connecting with them. And again, I feel the hardness in my heart around that. But the lesson of this engagement with the koan is that I can't continue to do that. That I have to do what Tori Zenji says in the Bodhisattva vows, which is to bow down to those who are even sworn enemies because they are helping liberate me from my tendencies. That is unwelcome, I'll tell you. And nevertheless, I see the importance in it. So let me go back to the first text again. And actually, Ed, you don't need to put it up on the screen. I just want to say, if you don't recognize it, it is from a commencement speech to a private boarding school in New Hampshire called Cardigan Mountain School. It was attended by the son of Chief Justice John Roberts of the United States Supreme Court. And that was John Roberts speaking. I had read that excerpt before actually John Roberts wrote the opinion in Trump versus the United States, which declared that the president cannot be prosecuted for any official act. even the murder of a political opponent. He cannot be investigated for those acts to see if there was a crime. So, a grotesque misconstruction of the Constitution, a harmful misconstruction of the law, which is now playing out in our country. How do I deal with that? That's what I've been engaging with in the last several weeks. Luckily, Peg has also been engaging with that. And she is leading an intensive. And the intensive is focusing on what we can do and how we can resource ourselves to engage with the very challenging times that we are in. And that is through engagement with the paramitas, which I wrote down and which I do not find on the piece of the paper that I have with me here. Here we go. The paramitas, also called the divine abodes, also called the perfections. As Peg has explained in talks that she's given, they're not perfections in the sense like you have to be perfect at all these things. They are perfect in the sense of orientations. Just as our vow at Appamada is an orientation, not a pledge to never fail, not a pledge to go beyond what we can do, but to always fully examine what we can do within the resources that we have and to apply them as fully as we can in the ways that will benefit ourselves and others and all beings. And those paramitas are generosity, ethical conduct or morality, patience, diligence or effort or energy, meditation or insight, and finally wisdom. And they all inform each other. You can't have generosity without wisdom. You can't have diligence without patience. You can't have ethical conduct without everything else. But I came here to train in joy, in resourcing myself with joy so that I don't give in to despair, so that I don't give in to hardening my heart completely. And I hope that you will listen to Peg's talks and to the other presentations later on that are coming forward from this intensive, if you're not able to be in the intensive right now. I know many of you are. So I'm going to conclude there and say that's the path that I have been on. That's the way I'm trying to engage with the path. And that I could not do it without, I could not be where I am to even try and find a path forward in joy. And when I say joy, I mean in full recognition of the horrors that are going on and the very great difficulties that so many people are facing. But to meet those with whatever resources I can that will help me move forward. So thank you for listening to all of that. And I invite your questions. And I'm going to switch to gallery view so that I can see. I said questions, reflections, other, any other thoughts you have. It doesn't have to be about what I was talking about. This is our time to be able to speak with each other.
Joel,
Yes. And
I'm going to raise my own hand in my mind and say something first. Um, First, thank you very much for your talk today and for the sharing of your learning and the vulnerabilities and what comes from this. And just so timely. One of the things, and with some of the medical things that I've been dealing with, it's given me that extra time to be able to sit and look and study. And in conversation with Flint, I've been looking at or listening to a lot of the koan Dharma talks from Joan Sutherland,
Hmm.
and talk about mind blowing. And one of the things that you'd said today, which was so pertinent and so important, you said it liberates you from your tendencies. To be liberated from your tendencies, to be broken open, to have that kind of joyous opening, sometimes to have that fearful opening to induce you to tears or whatever. The value of incredible, and how that comes from a koan, and to sit and live with them is so important. And this is the time. Um, what is it? Carolyn Estes, I believe, or Clarissa Estes said, we're built for these times, and how all of the nonsense that's going on, and some of it's idiocy, some of it's just flat out evil, but how it gives you that opportunity to get better, if you will, to start to get that discernment in as a real part of life where I don't need to hate a person. I can discern and disapprove of behavior and know when it's dangerous or wrong, but that doesn't mean that I need to take on that mantle of hate for another human being. And what a difference that makes. And it also makes a difference in kind of cleaning up, like you said, my own internal stuff. And it's, I wish it were other than what it is, but there's a lot of benefit that can be gained from this whole thing. And as dark and as troublesome as some of the stuff is, it's an opportunity not to have that bushel basket put on our heads and turn out our lights because of the darkness around us. So I just wanted to say thank you. And I see that Pam has her hand up. I'm going to ask her to unmute, and I am going to add her to
Ed,
Spotlight.
Ed,
Yeah.
before Pam, I'm going to say something to Ed, if you don't mind. Um, the Buddha uh, gave a talk to the Kalamas, the Sutra to the Kalamas, which is brief, in which he says, look at the evidence around you and pay attention to that. The question before him was, how can we know what kind of teachers to trust? And I just love this, the sutra. And he says, you're adults, you can figure this out, but do it in a careful way. Do it to see what is beneficial and what helps you and other people. And if it doesn't help, that's the wrong path. That you can know that. And somebody said, well, there's teachings that say we should focus on the afterlife. And he said, those teachings may be right, they may be wrong. But if you live your life in this way, where you're non-harming, where you're acting for the benefit of others, then you get to live that life. And you get to, and that life is your life, and your actions are what matter.
Yeah.
So I think I just offer that to echo the very important point that you're making. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pam, hi.
Good morning. Wow, Joel. The way that you went through this was very touching to me and instructive too. And I've been looking for a lot of ways, like how do I engage with this? How do I still stay connected with this person or that person, or how do I not generally just hate one or two of them? Um, And what you described as you were going through this were so many things that took place over years and touched your heart. And that seemed to me to be what you pulled together in this to show us how you're engaging with this really challenging situation that we've all found ourselves in right now. And I just wanted to say how much I appreciate that. Because each of us will go through these things differently and pull together our own set of circumstances when we go forward. And I just really wanted to say thank you for doing it in that way.
Thank you, Pam. Peg gave us some homework yesterday, which was to go out and to see examples of generosity. And that was an example of generosity. Mm-hmm. You know, to offer me that gift of your comprehension and maybe to some extent acceptance of what I was offering toward you. And thank you for that.
Thank you.
I see Marla's hand.
There we go. Thank you for describing the process that we use in Zazen and sharing, which I've been fortunate enough to be a part of for a while. And I find those very brief midday sessions on Wednesdays so delightful. I mean, a lot of people don't really find that much delight in koans, but I'm weird, I guess. But the thing I like about it so much is that we read through it like a play until we have identified with the different characters, because we take different roles each time. So then we are told, or we agree, that we're going to just write about our immediate reaction to the koan. And then we come back and we read that to the group. And it's amazing the differences in perspectives and the stories that each of us have about what's going on in the koan. And it's, in a sense, the koans have started to me to seem like Rorschach tests. And it's kind of fun, you know, because we get all these different perspectives, but what really matters is how we react to that koan, as you have said in your talk. And this has made me realize that what we're enduring right now is also Rorschach tests in a way, that each of us is perceiving what's going on in the world from our own perspective, with our own preconceived notions about it. And for me, at least, over time, the last 3-4 weeks since the inauguration, my perspective has changed in very subtle ways. I'm not happy about it for sure, but that's the beauty of being a part of a global community, is that it's not a unilateral, or it's not one mind. It's a hive, and all of the different perspectives on what's going on will lead to movements, will lead to justice. I mean, the Martin Luther King, the arc of justice is long, but bends towards justice. I really believe in the pendulum. I mean, the pendulum in Europe, swings really quickly, it seems, because of the parliamentarian systems there. And here in the US, it seems to swing more slowly. But there's so much engagement of grief and anger and joy by the people who are really pleased with what's going on. It's a really fascinating kind of a compost heap. It seems like we're stirring all of our feelings into this compost, and it's going to form something. It's going to form, I believe, a rich soil from which we can grow something new. Mm-hmm. I'm holding that hope that from this is going to come the growth of this country. It's sort of an inevitability of fracturing, and that, because of our practice, maybe we can contribute to that, but not maybe, but we will. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Marla. I want to say Marla is one of the spiritual friends that I mentioned before, that I kind of bounced some of these ideas off beforehand. And she was very helpful to me. And as she said, she's participating in this group. And and everybody's invited, by the way. It happens on Wednesdays at 12 12 o'clock, Austin time. It lasts for 55 minutes. And actually, we start at 12:05 and end at 12:55. So it's 50 minutes for the whole session. But it's very rich. And each person who has participated has really had a you cannot, I cannot help but being changed from just the richness of the perspectives and the welcoming way in which different perspectives are met. That's affected me a lot. So thank you, Marla. Denise, I see your hand.
Okay. Thank you, Ed. And thank you, Joel, very much for your talk, which was quite a journey and a gift, you know, in trusting us to share what moves you so deeply helped me be moved inside of me deeply as well. And there are different images and themes of your talk that touched me, and I just, you know, you talked about hardening of the heart. And this is something that I wonder sometimes when I give an example. I just heard that the woman with whom I learned Feldenkrais with, she was very important for me, and I was learning with her for 3 years, and she passed away as more than 95 years. And some of my friends wrote it to me, and I felt that I have no grief. You know, they were very moved and shared things, and I was just sitting there, and there was no grief, no sadness. And then today I ask myself, is this hardening of the heart? Or is it just, in a way, I feel also it's an acceptance of our human condition. But it's this question, you know, is it a hardening of the heart or not? And the notion I had in me was thankfulness that I was able to learn from her a lot, and that I made friends in this training. And maybe it's too much of grief around now that I talk here, I can feel that maybe there is too much of grief to be, when I connect to this, it's just a too muchness. So maybe it's a bit of a protection, or I don't know.
Mm-hmm. I've heard a phrase, compassion fatigue, you know, with disasters around the world, and that Americans or people in the developed world get tired of being bombarded with stories of the events that happen to other people, and that they get, you know, I believe that compassion fatigue is offered as an excuse for turning away. You know, in our discourse, at least here, I did not hear hardness in your heart. You did not speak harshly of this person. You didn't, in your demeanor and your words, you recognized an appreciation of what you shared with her.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you were at that time. Who knows what the future holds, you know?
Yeah.
I've certainly, knowing of the death or illness, serious illness of others in my life, I've seen with some shock that I don't feel the sympathy I should feel, or or the sadness that I think I should feel, but rather just a kind of waiting for things to develop, waiting for my own emotions to come forward in ways that they're not coming forward in any given moment. And for myself, all I can speak for is myself. That's the best I can do at that time, and that doesn't. It's not to be held up in judgment, to be condemned in judgment, but accepted for what it is. I think, and I hope that makes sense to you.
Yes, it does. I think what makes it clearer is if there is not an emotional reaction, it doesn't need to be a disconnection. It's just not connect through emotions in a way.
Thank you. That's a beautiful way to say it. Thank you. Well, Denise, I see Becky's got her hand up, and we only have one more minute.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, thank you.
Becky,
Add Becky.
can you unmute? Good.
Yes. So, 1 minute. So much that you've offered here. The whole thing of taking in something that helps us have a different perception of what's going on, our perspective, and the grief aspect that needs to speak to. Because sometimes I've worked something here at Appamada that I hadn't ever heard before, is that the more you love, the more you grieve. And I think that sets up that kind of judgment that you have to, really have a whole lot of obvious grieving to prove that you have love. But remembrances are there, and if we just remember what has been. But maybe to say, what happened for me today was I sat here and just had a big smile on because I was with everybody, because I can't be at the intensive and not much is happening otherwise. And I thought of Flint's talk about who am I with you, and then a thought, who am I, Anga? But I don't have to be with you all the time. It's nourishment when I am. I feel a little bit hungry this week. You all are also in me. So I just wanted to say many things about the I forget whether they were ducks or whoever was flying away. We have many ways to.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you, Becky. Ed, I know we're over time. Do you think we have time for the closing?
Absolutely.
All right,
Yes,
thank you.
let's do that, please.
So let's say the practice principles just one time. Caught in the self-centered dream, only suffering. Holding to self-centered thoughts, exactly the dream. Each moment, life as it is, the only teacher. Being just this moment, compassion's way. Thank you.
Thank you, Joel. Thank you, everybody. Just want a brief reminder that Apamata's programs and facilities are supported by your generosity. And if you go to the website, there is a link to contribute for Apamata and for the teachers as well. And if you'd like to stay on for a little bit, just pop yourself into gallery view, and we'll be here for another 28 minutes. So thank you. And thank you, Joel, again.